you're watching New Vision TV News. I am Ruthi Naseja. We're coming to you from the New Vision newsroom. We'll start with the news around Uganda, then the news around East Africa, and also news around the world. Later in the bulletin, we shall give you a special report. Let's look at the news around Uganda, where we look at stories making headlines across the country. Starting off from Kampala, now Uganda Road, Chief Magistrate's Court has granted Chadundu East Member of Parliament Robert Kyagulanyi a 1 million cash bail in Kampala. Now Chadundu was at the beginning of this week remanded to Luzira prison after being charged with a disobedience of statutory duty. The charge sheet attended before court showed that the musician turned politician faces charges of offences he allegedly committed last year. He is said to have held a public meeting without giving notice to an authorized officer or police. Let's move on to Tororo District, where the Minister of State for General Duties, Sarah Chengo Pendi, has condemned the excessive use of force by police while executing arrests. Pendi said the action of the police and other security agencies is creating enmity and hatred for those serving in government from the people. Speaking during the International Labour Day celebrations at King George Memorial Stadium in Tororo on Wednesday. Moving on to Mbale District, Lilian Mwanda, the Mbale High Court Deputy Registrar, has dismissed an application by the Mudai family that was seeking an injunction to stop Bukedi College Kashoga from using land they claim belongs to them. The Mudai family is battling the school management over land measuring 10 acres on Block 3, Plot 77 in Mbale. The family patriarch, Tito Mudaya, reportedly donated 50 acres of land to the school in 1957, but the family says the school encroached on more of their land. On February 20th, the Mudaya family, through Kajeke and company advocates, filed an application at Mbale High Court seeking an injunction to stop the school from using the disputed land. Moving on to Maracha District, the stakeholders were filled with optimism on Tuesday in improvement of health services as they commissioned the outpatients department block of the first public health center for since creation of the district in 2020. Maracha Town Council Health Center, located in Ndokolo Cell, was constructed by Boma Construction Limited in 2 phases, starting from 2015 with funding from the government at the cost of 576 million shillings under a Dutch primary health care funds. Implementing partners like ED was recognized for injecting 90 million shillings for refurbishing the cement floor of the laboratory, with Tarazo and Enabel for supplying medical equipment to begin work in the new health unit. A VIP latrine that was constructed at a cost of 15 million shillings was also commissioned during the function. News coming in from Soroti District. Now Soroti University will soon start admitting its pioneer students, a team from the National Council for Higher Education has said. In August last year, Professor John Opuda Asibo, the Executive Director of National Council for Higher Education, and the State Minister for Higher Education, John Chrysostom Muyingo, toured the Tesos Aboriginal Public University but halted its opening due to failure to meet minimum requirements. This was the second time the official opening of the university was being halted. However, Makerere University Professor of Obstetrics and Gynecology, Daniel Kabonge Kaye, who led the team from the National Council for Higher Education on Tuesday, said everything is now set for the university to open. Closing off the news around Uganda, we go to Buyukwe District, where the headmaster of Buvuma College, Siraje Kakomo Musisi, and the deputy head teacher of Yivu Senior Secondary School in Maracha District, Philip Afema Drought, were on Tuesday charged at Lugazi Magistrates Court in Buyukwe District over exam malpractice. Now Kakomo, 48 years, a resident of Ventura Village in Butambala District, was Buvuma District's examination supervisor, while Afema, 55 years, was the chief scout. The two were charged before Grade 1 Magistrate Aisha Nabukeda with conspiracy to leak UNEB examination contents, failure to adhere to UNEB/USCE statutory regulations, and neglect of duty. That is it for the news around Uganda. Now let us take a look at the news around East Africa and also news around the world. Hello, I am Rethina Sejay. You're watching New Vision TV news around East Africa. We start with Tanzania. Air Tanzania celebrated its first ever all-female cockpit crew who operated the Bombardier Q408 TC-104/5 from Dar to Kilimanjaro and then back. One of the pilots, Joan Bomani, on the right, was trained from the Uganda Flying School based in Soroti district. The revelations were posted on the Twitter pages of Air Tanzania and Uganda Professional Pilots Association. Still in Tanzania, 75-year-old Tanzanian business mogul Reginald Mengi has died, leaving behind $560 million for his 39-year-old wife, Jacqueline, now former Miss Tanzania. He was the chairperson of Confederation of Tanzania Industries, IPP Gold, Media Owners Association, Harden Gold, ITV and Radio 1. Jacqueline Mengi will become the richest woman in East Africa. Let's move on to Kenya. 2 men have been arrested for allegedly marrying pupils. In the first incident, a 30-year-old was arrested in Homa Bay sub-county for marrying a Class 7 girl. The suspect is said to have lived with the minor as his wife in a rental house in Sero village in the outskirts of Homa Bay town. He reportedly locked up the minor, a pupil at a primary school in the nearby Regwe sub-county, for 1 month. The two were arrested in the house after Area Chief Frederick Onyango was tipped off by the public. Elsewhere, in Ndora sub-county, a 26-year-old man was arrested for marrying a Class 6 pupil. The two are said to have been living as husband and wife in a rental house at Marindi Trading Center for more than 2 months. The man was also taken to Homa Bay police station. News from Rwanda. The Rwandan government said it had arrested a rebel leader alleged to be behind as part of deadly attacks in a forested area near Burundi and the Democratic Republic of Congo. The government stated that Calixte Nsabimana is accused of forming an irregular armed group, complicity in committing terrorist attacks, taking persons hostages, murders and looting. News coming in from Southeast Sudan. A new UN report says South Sudanese security agents likely executed 2 prominent critics of the government who vanished in Kenya in January 2017. South Sudanese government has repeatedly denied responsibility for the disappearance of human rights lawyer Dong Samuel Luke and Agre Idiri, a member of Sudan People's Liberation Movement in opposition. But the UN panel of experts on South Sudan says it verified evidence strongly suggesting that Luke and Idiri were kidnapped in Nairobi by South Sudanese Internal Security Bureau, acting on orders from ISB's Director General, Lieutenant General Akol Kora Cook. Finally, news from Uganda. After years of dilly-dallying regarding the development of its property abroad, it has emerged that Uganda has lost a prime plot of land in the Ethiopian capital, Addis Ababa. A report by the Foreign Affairs Committee of Parliament to the House indicates that the prime plot that had been given to Uganda grantees to build a chancery building was relocated to a third party. That was the news around East Africa. Now let us take a look at the news around the world. We start off from Sri Lanka, where Sri Lanka's Catholic Church has cancelled plans to resume Sunday services following a specific threat of fresh bomb attacks against at least 2 places of worship, a spokesman has said. Now, the Archbishop of Colombo, Cardinal Malcolm Rajithi, had wanted to resume regular Mass from May 5th, but a new information made them put it off indefinitely, his spokesman told AFP on Thursday. News from Libya. The UAE said that fighting terrorism was the priority in Libya, where it has backed a controversial military strongman against the UN-recognized government in Tripoli. The United Arab Emirates and its allies, Egypt and Saudi Arabia, regard Khalifa Haftar and his Libyan National Army militia as a bulwark against Islamic groups which are among the supporters of the government of national accord. News from the UK. Voters in Eastern England will elect a new Member of Parliament next month after ejecting the incumbent in the first move of its kind. It was announced on Thursday. Fiona Onasanya lost her seat after voters in the city of Peterborough signed a recall petition triggered by her conviction for lying over a speeding offense. Now, the 35-year-old was expelled from the main opposition Labour Party after she was jailed for 3 months in January after perverting the course of justice. That was the news around East Africa and around the world. Next is our pull-out news. Now, in our pull-out news of the paper that comes out every Friday, we have The Beat, we have Harvest Money, and we also have so much more that you will have to read when you get your Friday paper. Let us start with Harvest Money and see what we shall expect from the paper. Now, Harvest Money says, meet Ramadan Atuhura, who owns a 25-acre farm, who started the journey with just 2 hoes. Now, he says his mother drove him to the farm. We have that story and much more about farming because Harvest Money is a guide to successful farming. Let us take a look at what is happening in The Beat. Now, The Beat says, is hip-hop safe with the fresh kids on the block? That is a story you should read and much more in The Beat. Expect Kalunji Kabuye. We have fashion, culture, relationships, bars, music, and of course, movies. Get a copy of the New Vision. From the pull-out news, let us take a look at what's making headlines in the local sports news. Now, Deputy Katikiro Twaha Chigongo Kawase has urged the youth to always involve themselves in matters concerning the growth of sports in the country. Kawase revealed this at the launch of this year's Bikabyabaganda football tournament at Bulange-Mengo. The competition that gets underway on May 11th will have Musute called Mutima Muyanja in the opening game at St. Joseph of Nazareth in Kavule Katende, which will be graced by the Kabaka of Uganda, Ronald Muwenda Mutebi. Uganda Minister for Youth, Sports and Recreation, Henry Sekabembe, has called for more support towards the games. Now, committee chairperson Sulaimani Magala promised good atmosphere for all those that will be able to take part in these games. Inchima won last year's championship after defeating Impindi 1-0 in the final that was played at Chibibi. Now, Wakiso Giants and Proline have a chance to qualify for the Top Light League as the StarTimes FUFA Big League enters its second last outing in the regular season. Wakiso, who are currently top in the Elgon group with 37 points, 5 above second place Chetumen, need to beat bottom side Entebbe at Bugembe Stadium to be assured of making it to the top tier league automatically. Meanwhile, the Entebbe team also needs the points to brighten their chances of surviving, since the relegation will be expected to put off a stiff competition. Now, in our international news, Lionel Messi put Barcelona to within touching a distance of the Champions League final on Wednesday after firing a stunning brace to down Liverpool 3-0 at the Camp Nou. Former Liverpool striker Luis Suarez opened the scoring midway through the opening half of the semi-final first leg before Messi struck twice in 7 second half minutes to leave the Reds with a mountain to climb in a tie despite an impressive performance in Catalonia. Messi's second, an incredible long-range free kick, was his 600th Barca goal in all competitions. The two sides meet again next Tuesday for the decisive second leg at Anfield. That is it for sports news. Next is our Daily Pearl of Africa series. You're still watching New Vision TV News, and in our Daily Pal of Africa series, we discover Nanziri Falls. Now, these falls are found in Kalangala district on Bukasa Island. Nanziri Falls are historical. Locals believe the name was derived from a lady known as Nanziri who was married to a small god called Mukasa. These falls are notable for very many beautiful butterfly species that harbor in the surrounding vegetation. Let's take a look.
Kalangala district is the biggest island on Lake Victoria. Locals, tourists and well-wishers travel on water to reach here. Some use boats and others use ferries. A few meters from the landing site into the near forests is where Nanziri Falls is located. At Bukasa Island is where you find Nanziri Falls. It is clear Nanziri is a top destination tourism area. Many have embraced its offering. One would wonder who is or who was Nanziri and why was this place named after her? Wanda Christopher has lived on Bukasa Island all his life. He says his ancestors could not tell the source of Nanziri Falls, but it pours its water in Lake Victoria. Nanziri attracts so many people from across the globe. On this list, tourists had a chance to see Nanziri's cave. Scientists would describe a waterfall as often formed in the upper stages of a river where it flows over different bands of rock. It erodes soft rock more quickly than hard rock, and this may lead to the creation of a waterfall.
For more Pal of Africa stories, visit our website, which is newvision.co.ug/Pal of Africa. You can also buy our copy of the Sunday Vision and get more Pal of Africa stories. Now let us take a look at what is making news in business with Lynn Komjisha in the Handshake.
Well, hello there. You're watching The Handshake here on New Vision TV. My name is Lynn Komjisha. I have with me Paul Bushalizi. Paul, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Paul, the State House Anti-Corruption Unit and the Ministry of Gender have partnered to crack down on some weird things going on in the Youth Livelihood Project. That said, I want us to take a quick break. A quick look at before the livelihood project started. What were your thoughts? Did you think it would really make sense? Was it set out to achieve anything, help the youth in any way?
Yeah, I think the original, the design of the thing is supposed to be to give youth seed capital to start up their businesses and things like that. The intention, of course, is to enable them to be self-reliant, which is a very noble thought.
Yes, yes.
But I always thought that the way the program was designed, it was bound to run into such problems. The gender ministry is not designed or does not have the capacity to lend money to youth, especially. And it was supposed to be a revolving fund.
Yes,
it lends money, then the money that they repay back, they put it back in the system. But they don't have that capacity. It's a specialized area banks lend money, and banks even by the way, banks don't lend to startups, people who are starting up businesses, or even the youth for that matter.
Yeah.
So this the Ministry of Gender was really taking on an ambitious program.
Where were they getting the money from?
Well, they seem to have convinced the Ministry of Finance that it was something that could be done, and they got the money from the Ministry of Finance.
How has it been doing?
Well, I saw a report, I think earlier this year or something, talking about they had recovery rates of about, I think it was somewhere between 50 and 70%, which in a bank would be a disaster. An absolute disaster. I mean, the banks have recovery rates of, right now, they've just issued their results, they have recovery rates of 95% on their loans. So it just shows you, okay, of course, you can account, you need to factor in that the youth, unemployed youth, are a high risk factor to begin with. Exactly. Absolutely. So maybe we should allow them more. But somebody else should have been doing the work. The Ministry of Finance should have given the money to somebody who is much more suited to this job. Not necessarily a ministry, but an organization that can do this more effectively, efficiently.
Now we realize that there are ghosts, there's a lot of fraud. Who is doing this? Is it the youth who are benefiting, or those who are giving out the...
Well, think of it this way. Ministries in Uganda get money and they fail to utilize the money.
Sure.
So imagine if you give a new program which was not there, it never existed before, you give it several tens or even hundreds of billions of shillings and tell them to finish it in to go through it in 1 year. Things are bound to go wrong.
Absolutely.
So that's what's happened, really.
So, well, two people have...
So you haven't vetted the people who are carrying out the thing properly. You haven't even vetted the groups taking the money. I mean, people are just forming groups to go and take the money. Then when they get the money, they split among themselves and they disappear into thin air.
Two people have been arrested so far. And this is the joint operation that is going to go on. What will be the repercussions? Will they put a halt? Will this affect the revolving fund?
Well, the truth of the matter is that in an ideal world, it should have an output that is desirable. That you get more and more youth self-reliant, because that's a challenge. The economy is not creating enough jobs to absorb all the youth that are coming to the job market. That's the ideal situation. The way it's designed, it's not going to happen. And because of the political undertones to the thing, some people even think that they're just entitled to the money, they can take it and keep it.
Which is true, though.
No, it's not true.
Some people do.
Well, it's true that some people do that, but it's not true that they're entitled to the money. Yeah, so I think, in an ideal world, they should suspend the program, reevaluate it. They've done it for about 5 years or so. Reevaluate what has come out of it, and come back with a more robust system and plan. It has a good intention.
Oh yes.
But good intentions can be messed up by poor execution.
Absolutely.
They say the road to hell is paved with good intentions. So.
Now, so if they say, what happens to the people who have already taken the money?
No. They all have to pay. They all have to pay. Just because they suspend the program doesn't mean they stop paying. No way. They have to pay.
They have to pay.
Yeah.
And now that they have, because we know there's a lot of fraud going on, so far 2 people arrested. Is this good enough? Is this a good
Of course,
start?
it's more than that's not even the tip of the iceberg. There are a lot of people who should be, answer some very serious questions about this program. Its initiation, its execution.
You sound
everything.
like you know some people.
No, I think it's quite obvious. It's quite obvious. I mean, money is gone out, it doesn't come back in. You just look for the guys who sent it out and ask them what were they thinking.
Thank you, Paul.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Lynn. Now in our special report, we continue with the discussion on why education for private-public partnerships was put on hold with Paul Busharizi.
You should know that government supports 4,000 students, which is government sponsorship. And that's a lot of money, which to me can be reviewed and brought back to support the student loan scheme, because it attracts the poor from the community. Well, these 4,000 are those who come from the A-class family, and they do not need total support. So the money is there. We just need to realign ourselves and have a paradigm shift.
I would disagree with you that the money is there, but I understand what you're saying, that you have money, we should find a way of allocating it more optimally and things like that. But let me stay with you, that you mentioned something about private-public partnership. You only talked about the teacher enhancement. What other things would you like to see government? Because essentially, government cannot fill the gap. The private sector is coming up, and in recognition of that, government should help them.
For instance, it is not good enough for you to go around constructing secondary schools per sub-county when there are already secondary schools that are run by private operators, that you can enter a memorandum of understanding and have those children in those schools. Then you concentrate on software issues of policy, training, retooling teachers.
Since the private sector is already...
Yes, and what you would be concentrating on in hardware, which is the construction of structure, you invest that money elsewhere, because it's a fact that most private schools are well built and maintained and have floors, and there are no children in private schools who study sitting on the floor in dust. They have floors, they have structure. So to me, a meaningful public-private partnership will minimize the costs that government feels sweet and good to spend. We have to think outside the box.
That's an interesting one, in where the government can link up with the public sector. But I want to come back to you, Dennis. I want to discuss that as well, but not right now. So you say that you said earlier in your submission that the capitation grant is 10,000 shillings in primary school, 10,000 shillings per student per year. That is 3,333 shillings per term.
Yes.
What is that supposed to do? When you say capitation grant for the benefit of, what is that?
Capitation grant is there at three levels. We have capitation grant for primary, we have capitation grants for secondary. At secondary, we have government and public-private partnership, which we shall come back to. For secondary government, we are at 41,000 per student per term. And for PPP, public-private partnership, we are at 47,000 per term per student. And then when we look at A-level government, we are at 80,000 per student per term. And PPP, we are at 85,000. The reason why it's higher for a public-private partnership is because this money goes beyond just capitation. It even pays salaries for
But what is capitation?
Capitation is what I'm going to
explain. You are coming to it, okay.
Yes. Capitation is the non-wage allocation government sends to those institutions that either is partnering with or it owns the government schools to meet the extracurricular or the extra needs of the school. Like the extra needs, we talk of chalk, we talk of things that the school needs to run. Of course, this grant has its guidelines that it does not have to be abused. We do not expect it to be used to feed children. We do not expect it to be used to fuel the headmaster's car. It is to meet the running needs of the school. And the 10,000 per pupil per year should not be misrepresented as the only contribution that government gives to the primary schools. If you wanted to aggregate government's contribution for primary, you look at the salaries. Primary teachers are the best paid compared to the private counterparts. If you make analysis, if you look at the instructional materials, we send a budget of about 14 billion every year. You look at the development budget.
So how much do you spend per primary school pupil? Because capitation is 10,000.
Yes.
But if you aggregate,
I have not yet done the mathematics, but the enrollment for primary currently is at about 8 million pupils. If you look at a budget of about 900 billion for salaries for primary teachers, 14 billion for instructional materials, you look at about 70 billion for instructional materials, for capitation grants, then what government spends per pupil is a bit higher than what people project, but I agree there is space for improvement.
Yeah.
There is a huge gap, which we need to fill as government.
But it seems to me, as I said earlier, that you have been spending on schools for the last, let's just say, the NRM period, for the last 33 years.
Yes.
A gap, there was a gap. There were gaps already in let's just say, let's use 1986.
Yes.
There were gaps in 1986. We haven't bridged the gaps because, of course, I know the population continues to grow. We're not, in your mind, have you guys in the ministry made a calculation of what level we're at now compared to the past?
I would draw you to the strategic plan of the ministry. I have a copy. I would also draw you to the National Development Plan too, because that's how we measure our goals. Otherwise, when you look at the gap, sometimes it's even a moving target that we're dealing with. When you look at primary schools, from the time we started up to now, we are looking at quantity-wise, not quality-wise. The number of pupils has increased to almost enrollment. We are now looking at 7 million pupils currently within the system. That's even overwhelming the facilities which are there. And then look at in terms of coverage for primary, we do not have a sub-county without a primary school, not a parish, but a sub-county without a primary school. And
a government primary school.
Without a government primary school. There is only one district in the whole country, which is Kwen district, which has a sub-county without, otherwise all sub-counties are covered by primary schools.
Okay.
What we agree is some of those schools are not in the best state that they should be. And we are exploring as government to see how to introduce what they call maintenance, a maintenance grant at the local government level. And we're also encouraging, because you need to see that people take care of those schools, and we put in more funds. That's why I said the development budget needs to increase. I would also wanted to hint about the public-private partnership, whom we have been partnering with under secondary.
Oh, but before we get there, I'll come back to you on that one. I just want to come across again, but we are coming to private partnership. I'm also very interested in that. But on your side, Patrick, in your last thing, you mentioned something which I thought was kind of surprising, because people are beginning to think we need to be moving that direction. Say you're building technical institutions, and there are no people. What do you mean there are no people? People need skills to do woodwork, metalwork, plumbing. There's a need. I mean, I think the narrative in the society now is that there is a need for more practical people. So I'm surprised when you say we're building technical institutes and there are no people to go to them.
Teachers who teach science teach facts that bees visit flowers to get nectar. So as long as there is no nectar in those institutions, the students won't be there. If you go to the countryside, you will see very good buildings, technical institutions, and some can easily be converted into universities. But that, to me, is not strategic investment.
So what is happening? Why aren't people going to those schools?
They are not going to those schools because they are going to those where they are attracted. Remember, education currently cannot be run in isolation. We are implementing Sustainable Development Goal 4, which is quality education. So every parent is looking for quality. So what are the parameters for quality? Those are the parameters that will make these students run to where they think are. And in delivering quality, we are looking at efficiency and effectiveness as an objective. We are looking at access and equitable delivery of education. But at this point in time, we cannot celebrate access and celebrate a lot of enrollment in school. We must celebrate what qualitative outcomes that this education is delivering. And for us to be able to arrive at that, we need to bear in mind that the Education 2030 agenda is what we are following. And from now to 2030, those are 11 years. In short, those are 2 cycles of election. So if the government does not move so fast, we are going to see that efficiency and effectiveness is again hampered by teacher absenteeism. We need to see government ask...
Caused by what?
Caused by teachers who are not in classroom. We need to see government coming to ask private sector players, how do you ensure that teachers are never absent in your schools, but they teach and students pass? Maybe we need to have a meeting and do cross-learning to see how things are done this way so that they adapt. Otherwise, in terms of efficiency and effectiveness, you know, government style of we are in government, we can be late, it will be there. We are permanent and pensionable, something like that.
But as a private sector, you call yourself non-state institutions. It's to your advantage that the government continues to be a bit casual. Do you see that if the government is casual about its obligations, that it hurts you?
Not really. If we were to be that, we would be cynical in a way. What we want is to have a complementary approach and to arriving at situations that if we indeed see that government has best practices, as private we can copy them. If we see that we have the best, we invite government to dialogue with us. And that way, that's why you see that foundation bodies, for instance, churches, continue to run their schools with that touch of moral and values that continue making students feel those places as students. While where you find there is no grip, you still find few students are there. But what we need to do is to be serious as a government, put money where we think is critical.
But that's what they're doing.
Not really.
When you do a budget, you put the money where you think it is critical.
Now, to tell you is that education is delivered in twofold. One, local government, which controls the biggest, and those are primary schools and nursery. Then the central government, which has the secondary and higher to some extent. But when you look at the budget allocation for local government, is hardly 13% of the national budget. And then you also look at the more districts that are being created, expanding the administrative units. If you expand them and their budget allocation is small, then you are not helping education.
Thank you, Paul. We shall continue with episode 3 in our next bulletin. But remember, you can get more news updates and other programs here on New Vision TV by visiting our website, which is newvision.co.ug/video. You can also follow us on social media. Facebook is The New Vision, Twitter is @NewVisionWire, Instagram is @NewVisionWire, and our YouTube channel is New Vision TV. Catch up with me on my Twitter handle. I am Ruth, the Voice. Next is the Fact File.